Well,
I don't
men
understand.
determine the
What does that have to
relationship.
do with? What does that have to do with my dating expectations?
Dating expectations. I think I was saying it along the lines of you were framing it as though men have this tremendous burden or this inequitable burden to date in the dating realm that, you know, they have to pursue the woman, they have to...
Do you disagree with that? You don't think men have to be initiators and typically have to...
I just don't
Less
think of it as a
options.
burden.
A
I think of
burden?
it, yeah.
Have you ever approached a guy?
Yes,
Yeah?
several times.
Same.
Do you have any like
Same.
anxiety when you do that? There's no...
I mean, there's
you've been-
definitely emotions involved, but I don't think... I think the more that you've done it, the less sensitive you are to it. So-
Sure.
Depends on whether or not you're a submissive woman or a dominant woman. Because if you're an aggressor, you're going to go after the guy. I go after the guy. I don't wait for the guy to come to me. But I'm also very particular the type of guys that I like. So
So you disagree that it's a burden?
I think the phrasing of it being a burden means that, like, it's a negative experience going into it. When in reality...
How many men
it's-
have you rejected throughout your life?
Ooh, I
Hundreds?
can't... No.
Let me ask these other girls here. How many men would you say you've rejected throughout the course of your life?
Oh, like
Thousands?
Yeah, probably thousands.
Every DM you don't respond to, if you've had the dating app, every message you don't respond to, any guys who've ever approached you at a bar or a club or at school, whatever it is, thousands, yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, how many times have you been rejected?
One time.
One time?
Wait,
What about
maybe
you?
twice.
How many guys would you say you've rejected?
A lot.
Thousands?
Sure.
Thousands?
Maybe
yeah.
hundreds. I don't know about thousands.
Have you ever been rejected?
No.
Mm. How many men have you rejected? Hmm? Oh, that's right. Oops.
I've probably rejected around like 20 men total.
Have you ever been on a dating app?
Oh, God.
You've
Yes.
rejected a lot more than 20 men if you've been on a dating app. Have you ever been rejected?
Yes.
Okay, how many times?
At least like 20.
Okay, all right. What about you? How many times have you rejected men?
If you include Instagram DMs and
Sure,
stuff,
yeah. Instagram DMs.
a lot.
Okay. Thousands throughout
Maybe
the course
not
of your
thousands. I mean, maybe if
probably
you
been-
include the internet, yeah.
life. Include the internet,
Dating
bars,
apps.
clubs, men approaching you.
100.
What about you?
100.
yeah, same thousands.
Thousands,
Yeah.
Madison?
Hundreds.
So if you're a man and say that and actually, I mean, a success rate of like 10% of the women you talk to, you end up sleeping with, that's a very high success rate for a man. How could that not be a burden if you have to talk to 10 women and get, make an effort, make initiative, make an attempt? Who knows how far you could take those 10 women on dates even and
Yeah.
it not go anywhere. How could that not be a burden?
It's not necessarily a burden, I'd
How
say.
is it
that's,
not a burden?
That's the selection pool. You go into dating with the idea that, okay, this is a potential mate, or this is a potential, but it's not guaranteed.
But if we're comparing, we're doing a comparison here between men and women,
Yeah.
right? So the experiences of men compared to the experiences of women, if all of these burdens fall on men, approaching, carrying the conversation, soliciting a first date, soliciting the phone number, setting up the date, carrying and leading the conversation on the date, paying for the date, moving things forward physically, moving things forward sexually, closing the distance gap, going for the kiss, et cetera, et cetera. These are all individual points where men potentially face rejection.
And women face rejection via their assertion of femininity and
Or their
I
body
don't even
count.
know what that means.
okay, like say for instance, you're not as receptive to a move that a guy makes, but you're still very much interested in him. That could be taken
What do you mean?
Well, yeah, you're not making sense.
Because if I'm interested in a guy, I'm not going to reject a move that he makes.
Right. And like when you say you're of
Into the mics, guys, if you're going to
the assessment of femininity, what does that mean?
Meaning, like, there's certain dating practices that both men and women have to uphold, and a woman asserting her feminine. And shit, my phrasing on this is not great, but women have to mentally brace themselves for like responding to men and being attractive, being their idea of what a girlfriend should be, trying to forecast his actual responsiveness to you as a person, because sometimes guys will go into relationships and they look for women that don't show them as much attention because they want.
I'm sorry, I got to cut you off. I don't know what you're. Can you arrive at the point here? Like, make an actual argument.
I don't know.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I think that the counter burden to what you're talking about is like the dangers of actually dating and going with some guy you don't know, like you don't know their intentions. And I mean, I've had really bad experiences with going on dinner dates where it didn't actually end in dinner. So it's definitely a burden.
Okay, so we can talk about these. I mean, I'm talking about like normal psychology here. Like, I'm not talking about. Yeah, okay, there's a fear that women have of being assaulted. But let's talk about, like, let's say the girl's normal, the guy's normal. Who has the burden there?
I would
Like
say
healthy dynamics. We can talk about like abnormal psychology and people who are fucked up and people who would be inclined to victimize you. Let's talk about just an otherwise healthy first date.
definitely it's more on the man, I would say. Because the women, I feel, at least in my experience, and there have been exceptions to this, but overall, I don't really have to do anything besides just kind of existing.
Show up.
And show up.
And being basically polite and friendly. And the guy he's the one who has to kind of convince me.
To sleep with them.
Yes, exactly.
Basically.
He does get to decide whether or not we are in a committed relationship for sure, but I actually have a fair amount of control over where that goes if the man is truly interested in me, in my experience. So.
I mean, you guys could be very much right. I mainly just disagreed with the phrasing of it as being a burden. But I can understand why it would be considered a burden for men to go through all those lengths and then not
And then get rejected.
Well, hang on. In this case, in this context, when he's saying burden, he's not saying burden as in burdensome necessarily, but what the obligation or social obligation of. That's what kind of that means in that context of burden.
Like
Who has the
responsibility.
burden to
Yep.
pay for the date doesn't
can unmute.
necessarily mean that it's burdensome that a man pays for the date, but we're just asking, who do you think has kind of the obligation? That's what that means in that context.
Okay.
Honestly, I think that's something that should be on the rise to change, especially with all women talking about, oh, I want equality and this and that. And the, well, if you want equality, then pay for half the goddamn date.
Well,
Put your card out on
yeah,
the table
I'm
when
not-
it's time
I
to
think a
pay
lot of
instead
us
of go
do,
to the
though.
bathroom. Like
So
most women do.
In my
Like I do.
experience with dating, I'm considered a modern woman. I don't necessarily expect the guy to pay for the date. And dates that I've been on, I've paid for myself before. But most recently, I say it was a traditional experience where I went out with a guy and he paid for everything, and he didn't expect me to.
Question, how many times have you had that experience?
Once.
Okay. Any women here, like, have any women here been on like more than one date where the guy took care of everything?
Yes.
What do you guys think is more common? The man taking care of everything or the woman taking care of everything?
The
The
man.
man.
I've never been on a date with a girl where I ever could have gone in with the expectation that she was going to pay for the whole thing. Has never happened in my entire life. Never. It's either split or I pay.
The
That's it.
the way I've dated in the past before I was married was, if I invite the guy out, then I'm going to expect to pay. Because I invited him, I extended the invitation. So if I say, hey, let's go to a movie or let me take you out to dinner, then I'm going to pay. Why? Because I invited him out. Because I want to. I'm not saying that, if he decides, oh, no, let me pay, or let me pay for half, yeah, I'm going to let him because he's taking the initiative to want to do more. But that doesn't necessarily mean that everything's always on the guy. And I think that's the narrative that should change, is that it shouldn't always be on the guy, because guys shouldn't necessarily have to be burdened with all of it.
He's just saying, as of right now, the burden is typically
No, for
on the
sure.
guy.
And I know, I agree with him.
And burden doesn't even, like he was saying, it just translates to responsibility.
Well, yeah, but I don't think, even in my experience, and this is a very unique experience, the burden of conversation is necessarily on the guy, meaning I have to engage intellectually with him, bring up topics of conversation, keep things interesting, and not just, kind of.
If I did what most women do on a first date, there would be fucking dead silence on the first. Like, I'm telling you, women are not prepared to carry the conversation on the first date.
What kind of women are you dating?
Some women are. Some women are good conversationalists. Some women are good
are
conversationalists.
hobbyists.
However, like
doing it
if I were to if I were to just be silent and kind of like wait to see what the woman does, it would be really fucking awkward conversationally. It would be really awkward. Here, let's play that. We're on a date.
Okay.
I'm gonna be a chick. Okay. Go.
Okay, what do you do for work?
Podcaster.
Oh, interesting. So how long have you been doing that for?
2 years.
2 years. And have you ever considered any career changes? Or?
Nope. I
No?
like what I do.
You like what you do?
Yeah.
I like what I do too. Do you have
Who are these girls, Brian? Who are these girls
Yeah,
you're
who
dating
hurt
that are
you?
like that?
Tell me you've never had a conversation like this with a guy.
I typically am the one rambling.
Yeah, the first
Yeah.
thing that we talk about
Yeah.
should not be like what we do for work, to be honest.
Well, that's LA. If you're in LA, that's
That's
usually
why my
the
dating
topic
bio
of
is what it is.
conversation.
It's
Like, I'm
about
not trying to
money,
do
it's
that
not
small
about,
talk
like,
bullshit.
actual interests and like personality and
Well, I mean,
Anything
that takes
emotional
work though.
connection.
That takes emotional labor.